Today, I'm going to be trying to beat Resident Evil 5 with the hardest mod available, Project Brutality. So for context, the regular campaign of Resident Evil 5 is pretty easy, all things considered. There's only about 4 difficulties: Amateur, which is the equivalent of Easy Mode, Normal, Veteran, and Professional, which is only unlocked after beating the game at least once. To be honest, Professional is the only difficulty that offers even a modicum of challenge. It's not so much that the enemies are way harder to kill, because the game offers you free weapons to grab along with enough ammo to kill everything for the most part, unless you really like missing your shots. The true challenge of Professional is how flimsy your character is. Think of it as the realistic difficulty in Black Ops 3, where one hit basically kills you. Of course, you do have the dying state that allows your teammate to revive you for a second chance, but that won't save you if it happens too often in quick succession. This is because the last quarter of your health bar is dedicated to the dying state, and each time you get put into it without healing, the meter will get lower and lower until your ally won't be able to resuscitate you in time. Not to mention that on Professional, that bar goes down fast. In fact, it goes down so fast that you might not want to be holding any healing items, because the animation to do so takes a second longer than just resuscitating them normally. With all that said, the game is still wholly beatable and pretty fair. There might be a few occasions where Professional difficulty can feel pretty BS, which is mostly just the Jill fight in Chapter 5-3, because she has a leg attack that will kill you no matter what because you take too long to get up out of the animation, so it's literally a dodge or die situation. But overall, it's not the most challenging experience. What this mod does is pretty much restructure the entire identity of the game. So let me explain. Number 1, special enemies are more abundant. Guys like the Executioners and Chainsaw enemies are in places where they normally aren't, which will either force your resources earlier than usual or force you to make a mad dash for the exit. I imagine this extends to later mini-bosses, but we'll worry about that when we get there. 2, treasures are way less plentiful. I don't think this applies to the regular enemy drops of treasure, but the ones that are present throughout the stages in specific locations every time you go through them. The challenge here is that you won't have as much money to upgrade your weapons, making you weaker even by the endgame. So, I plan to just stick to the base weapons and not the better ones later on. 3, the free weapons that usually lay around the map in those silver cases are empty. For example, the Scorpion SMG that spawns during the first chapter while trying to survive the attack from the villagers is gone. The mod author said that the intention with this is to force you to buy weapons between chapters in the shop, dwindling the already crappy money supply. 4, enemies have had their stats changed, whether that be from HP, damage, or some attribute. There's a specific note in the mod page that says that gun-wielding enemies were replaced, which I imagine was to spare us the difficulty of dealing with them, since they're pretty annoying in the regular game with their ranged attacks, but what they are replaced with remains to be seen, as they only show up in chapters 5 and 6. Just as a side note, I'll be skipping the chapter where you have to find the truck on the turret as recommended by the mod author. I guess this is because you can't really tweak that level due to how it functions and it being entirely scripted, so it won't be any different compared to a regular run. Also, the mod also adds in sound effects from Resident Evil 6 for some reason, but I didn't see a reason to remove it. Other than that, I'm going with none of my previously upgraded weapons from other runs. They are there in my item box between chapters, but I don't use them. Infinite ammo is obviously turned off. Hell, I even forgot that I finished my last playthrough at low health, but I went along with it anyway and didn't even bother getting a fresh healing item to start off at full like you're supposed to. Lastly, I do have one other mod installed, but it won't affect anything gameplay wise. It just removes the color filter the game has, which makes it look more colorful overall. With all that said, let's get into the first part of this run. So, after walking through the village and getting our guns, you usually run down some stairs after breaking a couple of barrels and don't encounter any enemies until you get a cutscene of some guy getting a parasite put into his mouth. However, I was shocked to find that upon going down the stairs, I was attacked by some dogs right out of the metaphorical gate. Surprised, I instinctively shot and killed them, only to realize I just made my ammo supply dangerously low. I remember the mod author saying that this mod made the game more into survival horror, instead of just shooting everything in sight. So after this, I made sure to be smarter with my ammo. Thankfully, the dog that attacked me did hardly any damage, surprisingly, so my health didn't really change. But on Professional, being at full HP or 1 HP is practically the same thing anyway. Once I got to the part where you're meant to encounter your first enemy, I got attacked by 2 people instead of 1, and I even ran out of ammo, forcing me to knife them both and relying on melee attacks. I figured that it wasn't the end of the world, as there is usually some handgun ammo in the next room, only to find that it wasn't even there. So that's nice. I follow a typical script where you get chased immediately after and book it into a nearby building to end the sequence. Inside, I find plenty of herbs whose spawn placement does not seem to have changed, thankfully, and 30 handgun bullets. After this is the dreaded village survival section. This part is completely timed, so killing enemies doesn't really advance anything. It's literally just a matter of waiting for the escape cutscene to play. I ended up dying a lot here, so much so that I quit during the first recording and was determined to call it a failure and try a different challenge, but I tried again the next day and grinded it out. Anyway, the way this section typically goes in the normal game is that you block the doors with 2 bookshelves within the house until the enemies inevitably break them. After that, you need to fend within this small space until someone tells you that they're on the way to help you. At that point, the music will change to signify the arrival of the Executioner enemy type. This guy is extremely dangerous, but also very helpful here. You need him to break down the gate to allow you access to the rest of the map, but he has a very wide melee range, and if he hits both Chris and Sheva at the same time, you automatically lose. This is because of how the dying state works. If one teammate is dying, another has to be healthy to help you. If both are dying, you can't save each other, so there's no point in making you wait out the timer. As such, if both players get put into dying states, the second player to get put into that state automatically dies. So, this executioner guy can literally one-tap the both of you if you're too close. He also has a grab move that requires your teammate to break you out of it, or you'll also be instantly killed. But that move is easily avoidable, so it's not really something to worry about. 6 minutes in, and I was in my first attempt at this village section when a new problem arose. The parasite enemies that don't come until you have the first shotgun are actually able to spawn within the first chapter. I think you can see the problem here. Bullets are already limited, my pistol is extremely weak, and this thing can attack from a decent range and can't be staggered for a melee attack. Essentially, without a flash grenade that instantly kills parasite enemies, I have to deal with him the entire time by running away. Trying to kill him would not only not be enough to end him, but then I still have to deal with the other 100 enemies coming my way without any ammo. At this point, I also realized I would have to rely on melee attacks to kill enemies in an effort to save some ammo. Melee attacks in this game do have different damage values if I recall, but thankfully, Chris and Sheva's melee attacks are pretty reliable for killing things. The melee attack you can do is dependent on how you stagger the enemy. In Chris's case, here's how it works. If the enemy is holding their face, Chris does a straight punch. This is usually enough to kill. If the enemy is on their knees, you have two options. Chris can either do an uppercut, which isn't as reliable to kill if you attack from the front, or a neck breaker if you hit the action prompt behind them. The nice thing about the neck breaker is that it always will kill the enemy, prevents enemies from spawning head parasites. Even in this example, this blonde woman is scripted to always spawn a head parasite as she's supposed to be the first time you encounter the enemy type. However, as you can see, if you use the neck breaker, this doesn't happen. You cannot use this on special enemies like the chainsaw guys though. The best part is that when you are in any animation, like picking up items from the ground or doing a melee attack, you can't be damaged, and depending on the move, nearby enemies will be knocked back a bit to give you some breathing room. It's good to utilize this if you're about to get hit and have no time to move. Lastly, Chris has two extremely weak moves and a super strong one. If the enemy holds their arm, Chris can do a right hook which usually isn't very effective, but it does stagger them backwards. Behind them, he also has a lane kick that's probably one of the least effective melee attacks in the game, but it does allow your teammate to follow up with an attack of their own with one of these two moves. The final strong attack is Chris's haymaker, but you can only ever use this on big enemies, and it requires some setup depending on the enemy. Sometimes you might need to chain melee attacks to get to use it, or in the case of a later mini-boss, you can just use it for free if you stagger them. Moving on, I immediately noticed two other problems as soon as I experienced my first loss. 1, the AI is an absolute idiot and will get themselves killed. 2, there's actually a special cutscene that plays if you die in this section. Obviously, you aren't ever expected to die here, so most people probably don't even know this exists. But imagine seeing this after every death. Yeah, it gets old pretty fast, and you can't skip it. Get used to seeing that in this footage. At one point, I tried running into a building to grab a green herb to heal myself with, but that's when I learned that it isn't even worth it to run inside these buildings. As I go for the herb and heal myself along with Sheva, she gets hit, forcing me to stop and help her out. Due to this, it allows all the enemies and the parasite enemy to trap us inside. I try in vain to do a punch to knock them all back, but the parasite enemy doesn't give a damn and just stares at me as it hits Sheva again. At this point, the executioner breaks down a wall in this house, and I'm now getting pounded from both sides with seemingly no way out. We get comboed back to back until I just say screw this and run through them with hardly any HP. One more hit and I would die. After that, I rarely if ever ran inside a building and tried to just run around the map constantly until it was time to escape. Of course, that was easier said than done. I had no control over the AI, which would sometimes follow me or stop to do something stupid and die. Like here. Did you catch that? She died there because she stopped to pick up money, which the AI tends to do since it assumes you missed it or something. This is why having a human ally would make this much easier since they would have an actual brain. In my third run, I had another monkey moment where I'd actually gotten past the executioner with no damage for the most part, but then like an absolute ape, I shot an electrical transformer in the hopes of stopping the executioner, who was behind me and hit Sheva, killing her and ending that run. After multiple runs failing to even make it to the executioner, I found a winning strategy to actually make it to him consistently. Basically, I would run back out of the house that you start in. This way all the enemies would be forced to funnel through the doorway, making it easy to line up a shot and punch them all back in. After doing that, I would attempt to simply run away after the executioner breaks down the gate. Unfortunately, it wasn't foolproof, as sometimes a parasite enemy would spawn and mess everything up as I had no way to get rid of him. Other times I would get cheated because when the roof is broken, a short cutscene plays, and when it comes back to you, and any enemy that was in the process of swinging at you gets a free hit and you don't have time to dodge or shoot. Also notice at this point that I rarely, if ever, give the AI any ammo. This is both a good and a bad thing. It's a good thing because that means all the ammo goes to me and I can make them count instead of mindlessly shooting at enemies that don't need to die. Plus, you can't decide how much of the stack to give them unless it's the max or so, in which case it gives them about half. so I end up either giving it all away or have to request it back once they reload, wasting precious time. The bad part about this is that without any ammo, the AI is basically screwed as they get cornered because they can't shoot their way out, so it's much easier for them to take damage. Of course, it does attempt to use the knife in an effort to do something, but all that does is make them sitting ducks. Hence why I always remain on the move so the AI doesn't have a chance to do that. After multiple failed runs either due to my own stupidity or absolute crap RNG, I managed to squeak out a win and survive. Enjoy this short compilation of my deaths.
Oh, fuck. Damn it, man. I'm so bad. No, 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 no. No! Bro. Oh. No way. He hit us both at the same time, bro. What? No way! Bro, what am I supposed to do with these parasites? What do I do, man? There's really nothing I can do about it. Oh. The animation takes too long.
So, that's the first part of this misadventure, so I hope to see you back for the next part, which will be much longer unless I get hard stuck again. But this is one of the few sections of the game where you can't just simply leave, so I should be fine. The rest of this footage is just of my winning run, so feel free to stay if you want to see that, but otherwise, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.
Give me that ammo back. How? Oh my gosh. This is the run 100%. do shot counts right now. Nope. Oh my gosh. Oh, I wanted that ammo. Get this shit out of here, man. Oh my goodness, bro. Yo, bro. I'm stopping there, bro.